What's up everybody, it's Ben from Just Gloves. Today I am here with Devin Colley of DC Gloves, and he is gonna be showing us how to dip dye a glove. Devin, how you doing today, man?
Pretty good, how's it going?
Pretty good, we're glad to have you here. So when we dip dye a glove, man, what's the first step?
Yeah, so I guess we'll start off with taking out all these gray laces, use some snips and pliers, take them out, and then we'll use some of this elastic cord, go ahead and put the web back in temporarily, as well as the wrist.
All right, Devin, so you're snipping out these laces right now. I guess we're gonna take it, if we left the laces in the glove and started doing the dip dye, this is gonna be a pretty messy process. Those laces wouldn't look any good.
A little bit, yeah. So taking them out, it'll just reduce any streaks and whatnot, or like any white spots. Wherever there's leather on leather and the dye can't get in, it just won't react at all.
Gotcha.
So this just takes that away.
And then obviously you're snipping these laces out right now, so these are not going to be reusable.
Right.
So anybody who is wanting to copy our process here, if they're doing it at home, you're gonna definitely need to buy new laces, correct?
Indeed.
Yeah, so that'll take yeah, you'll have to go get the laces, and then for those of you who, if you're wanting to do this project and you're not 100% well-versed in lacing, there's tons of videos out there on YouTube.
True.
That'll show you how to do it. Who's a guy that you'd recommend watching on YouTube if you need some help lacing?
Dirty 30 is definitely a good one.
Yes, Dirty 30.
He's been very helpful.
Yeah, I feel like everyone who's kind of into gloves or doing some lacing, it seems that's definitely where they started, was watching his videos. So it's almost kind of therapeutic watching you just take all the laces out of the glove.
And then ASMR video.
And then the big thing, so once you get all these laces pulled out, what's this stuff that you're gonna be putting back in here?
So that's like just elastic cord. It'll give like a little bit of, well, it'll give a little bit of give, I guess, on the web. So it'll kind of stretch around, and we'll avoid getting that leather on leather contact by using this. So
if you look here, I'm throwing it into the screen here. So here's kind of a finished product of what it'll look like after you go ahead and pull all of the laces out, and then go ahead and get that string in there.
And that gives it like just a little bit of that. Like, so if you're moving in the water, all the dye has kind of just room to move around and all that.
And then the big thing here as well, so when you go ahead and put that elastic bead cord through, they don't have to do the fingers, do they? You leave the fingers normal?
I leave the fingers and the wrists, and that's honestly mostly just so all the colors align across the glove as a whole. So let's say like purple's down here, fuchsia's up here, it's gonna actually match that on the web as well.
Okay.
So.
Nice, cool. That makes it definitely easy. And then as far as like relacing this bead cord back through here, is there any specific pattern they need to follow, or is any way you kind of rig it in there fine as long as it's pretty even?
Just anywhere, just make sure you get the line on the previous lace spots as well. So anywhere the lace came up, just make sure you cover that, or else like you will get those little lines and whatnot, the streaks.
Nice. So yeah, you do it right in there. And then what's the other spot on the glove that you went ahead and?
Down here on the wrist.
Okay.
And then it also makes it easier to dip in and whatnot. I put it on the loosest setting so that way it's not overlapped up here, and just gives it a cleaner outcome in the end.
Nice. Why don't you show everybody with the cord for when you do go ahead and put that in there? How do you get that? How do you get that cord in there? This is I'm interested in this process.
Yeah, no problem. So I just take this, and I have a skinny lacing needle. It's just a little bit thinner than the standard, I guess. I take a little bit of tape. I round off the end of my cord. I just go ahead, set on the end of my lacing needle, since there's no way to really get the thread in the needle, since it's so large. Reinforce it once. Go ahead and get your length, so I can do all three portions in one strand, so I'm not sitting there cutting tape and stuff over and over again. So
how long do you usually, is it, you just kind of eyeball it?
Yeah, just kind of eyeball it. I mean, you have a lot of cord on a spool, so.
Expert note for you guys during this section. Go ahead when you're tying off the bead cord, Be sure to use a ton of knots just to ensure that the web and wrist portions stay together during the entire dip dyeing process.
Sweet.
Looks like this glove, this one's ready for, is this the, about ready for the dip dye process?
It is good to go. Just needs some water.
All right, perfect. All right, so we're kind of on our big step 2 of the dip dye process with our white Wilson A2000 that we call the ice model. So Devin, what are we gonna do next with getting this glove ready to dip dye?
Sweet. So now, honestly, we're just gonna let it soak in the water for a little bit, and that way it's completely prepped for the dye. So.
All right, you just go ahead, this bucket right here, we got a 5-gallon bucket. We're just going ahead and we're dunking it in, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Just get it nice and saturated. You want the glove completely wet and soaked throughout the entire process. So
okay. And are you
be generous with it?
Are you concerned at all about the amount of time that the glove's going to be sitting in there?
I mean, personally, I've not had many issues with that.
Okay.
I let it soak for quite a while. Just as long as you're quick to put conditioner and stuff at the end, like the next day or two. Like,
okay.
Your gloves, it's gonna stay healthy.
So the big thing for people to know, don't be scared of sticking the glove in the water for a little bit. So are we talking like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 hours, or it really doesn't matter?
Anywhere in between there.
Really?
Honestly,
okay.
Yeah. Just as so it can be as low as 5 minutes, just get saturated, and they can sit out just as long as it's like really in there in the leather, in the padding, and then once that's there, you're pretty good.
Okay.
A few moments later.
All right, so we've got this.
Draining now.
Yep. And should you let kind of all the water kind of dip out? Should you open up that hand stall underneath there and?
Yeah, I let it get to the point where like you're not gonna see any beads or streaks going down the glove.
Okay.
Like it'll look one solid color, you'll know it's wet, but.
Yeah. All right, I'll move this out of the way for you.
Sweet.
All right.
So yeah.
So what's our next step after this?
Honestly, if we want to go ahead and start prepping all the dye, get the solution made for that.
Okay.
Should be good to go.
All right, we're on our step 3 of the dip dyeing process. So we got our wet glove here that we just pulled out of the bucket where it was soaking. We're gonna get our pot ready for the RIT dye. So we're gonna be using a special type of dye. It's called RIT. Yep. Devin's been championing this method of using this to dip dye his gloves. As far as the water goes, Devin, what are we looking for here?
Yeah, so I guess we want to start off, I put on max heat on the burner and everything, and then get a little thermometer. We double check, that gets to 140 degrees. Once it's to that, we'll go ahead and start making our solution.
Okay, all right. So this is gonna be what we're gonna have in here. So this is gonna be the color that we're gonna go for with our dip dye process. As far as colors go, we're gonna be doing a kind of color combination of 5 colors that I like to call it the Tequila Sunrise is what I like to call it. But people don't have to follow this specific colorway, right? They can.
Nope.
Yeah.
They can go pretty much whatever you want. I mean, there are kind of rules to it. You'll want to go darker over darker, similar to what was said earlier with the dyes and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but if you want to follow the recipe that we're doing here, we have 5 colors right here. We're going to start with from RIT. This is going to be our golden yellow is what we're going to be going with. Our other colors that we have are going to be the sunshine orange.
Yep. Fuchsia, purple,
and indigo.
And indigo. Yep.
So, and we'll show you guys we'll tell you the order to do them in as far as how you want to dip dye them. But go ahead, show us what we got to do for our solution here.
So for our solution, I'll go ahead and take just some salt. Go ahead and pour that in there. I'm pretty generous with it, I'm not gonna lie. Same with the Dawn and vinegar.
Okay.
Usually I just go 3 squirts.
So as far as this recipe goes, did you kind of invent this recipe yourself, or is this just following like the RIT dye recommendations for the most part?
I usually follow their recommendations. Okay. I go a little extra with the vinegar, salt, and all that, just because I know it kind of helps it stay into the leather. Okay. And it worked the first time, so I'm like sticking with it.
Nice.
So yeah, and it usually says like about a cup of vinegar. So I'll just all that, good to go. Perfect. And then I've been using the RIT all-purpose dye as well, rather than the synthetic. It has just seemed to do the job pretty decent.
All right.
So give it a good mix. Take off this safety protection.
There you go.
Pour it in.
Look at that.
And I just do one whole bottle in there.
Okay. All right. Do you have to stir it around at all?
Yep, we stir it up pretty good.
Got the wooden spoon for you.
Indeed.
Move this over here so we don't get any splash.
Cool, thanks. So yeah, just stir it up real good. I mean, with the dish soap, it's gonna get a little bubbly and all that. So I usually let it sit for a couple minutes afterwards and let all those bubbles settle.
Okay.
So yeah.
How long does it take for the bubbles to go back down?
It's like a few minutes.
Okay.
It's not too long at all. And it's also not the end of the world if the bubbles are there. Like,
Okay.
it's just a little detail that makes it smoother in the end.
Gotcha. All right, so we're kind of on our fourth step now of the dip dye process. So as you know before, you put all the solution in there in the RIT dye. If you're following this recipe that we're doing, for what we call the Tequila Sunrise, we're starting with the golden yellow, is that right?
Yep, golden
Okay.
yellow.
And what was our temperature again that we're looking for on?
So we want to maintain 140 degrees.
Okay.
Without turning it down just a tone.
Okay.
But yeah, 140 degrees, kind of a sweet spot. It doesn't get too hot, but yet it's still hot enough for it to like be reactive and stuff. Okay. So.
And then you had mentioned earlier, what's this thing we need to make note of with the water, especially in like where we're going to be doing the dip?
So yeah, I usually let all the bubbles on the top settle a little bit. Whenever they're up there and kind of compacted and you dip the glove in, when you pull it out, the bubbles will stick and leave a hard line on the glove at the end of the process. So letting those dissipate and stuff it'll avoid all that and keep it clean.
Okay, perfect. All right, go ahead, man.
So yeah, sweet. We'll go ahead in the wrist portion, go fingertips up, and then we just go right in. I like keeping it to where the thumb, pinky, and like all this on the horseshoe is flat up top. So say if a glove were sitting on its top side, I want that flipped over and equal that way.
Okay.
So we dye down. And we're only gonna wanna go to the top part of the wrist in terms of color like that. So that's what we want to be seen in yellow. But with that, we wanna go all the way down to this top part of the binding. Dyeing it in here, I just go ahead and get most of that wrist portion dyed up. When you get to about right there, that's what you're gonna see that's gonna stay yellow on the glove. But with that, the yellow is gonna be overtaken with the orange, so we wanna go about right here with it.
Okay. And by going up a little bit, once you dye the orange, that's gonna kind of make those colors melt together, is that right?
Yep, that'll bring in that nice little fade.
Nice, cool.
All right, we got a couple other expert notes for you guys during this section of the dip dyeing process. First of all, for each color that you're doing, try to ensure for 15 to 20 minutes of dye time for each color that you use on the glove. So if you do have 5 colors like we did today, you can basically take 5 times 15 to 20, and that'll be how long you're going to be doing the dip dyeing process. Secondly, always dye the lightest color first. And lastly, use RIT's all-purpose dye to ensure that the glove's embroidered logos remain their same color once you're done with the dip dyeing process.
All right, so we're finishing up on our first color here, that golden yellow. Anything we need to be mindful of as we're pulling the glove out?
Honestly, just make sure you let it drip out pretty good. That's just cleanliness.
Okay.
Just so you're not making a mess at home and all that.
Okay.
Yeah, just let it sit there, dip dye, and then I just take it right over to a
have a
towel
towel
each time. So yeah. Here with the wrist, you're gonna get that heel padding soaked with water too. So if that takes a second to drip, that'll be it. Set it there, and we will prepare for the sunshine orange.
All right, so we're coming up on our second color of the RIT dye process. What color are we going with here?
Yep, we got the sunshine orange.
Okay.
And we'll go ahead and mix our solution up.
All right, go ahead, show us again just so they can see one more time.
I will say on the second portion and stuff, or these middle colors, it will be okay since it's going to be all dyed throughout this bottom part. If you want to go ahead and start saturating some of the lower portion, the bubbles will grab onto that, but since it's going to be covered again, like that part will become darker, the bubbles aren't going to matter as much. So just first couple minutes of when you're dyeing your other colors, just don't get all the way up to your highest point. Because when you get to the highest point with those bubbles, that's when you get the hard line.
Okay.
So you can get the bubbles on like right here. That's completely fine because I'm gonna keep going back over and over again over that part of the glove.
Okay. And similar to before, you got to make sure, I feel like when I'm watching, I just keep an eye on the back, but you always got to keep an eye on the, you're doing a good job, you're keeping an eye on the palm as well as the back of the glove, correct?
A little bit, yeah. So I mean, I focus mostly on how the back's gonna lie down.
Okay.
And then the palm, it usually falls into place pretty well.
Gotcha, okay.
But I mean, you do gotta keep an eye on stuff here and there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like right now, we're kind of starting to see that hard line. If you're starting to see that, I would just go ahead and give it like a really quick dip at times. So
Okay.
like that water doesn't have that dye doesn't have a chance to sit right there on the
Okay.
edge for too long.
Kind of going back as well, you mentioned that with our yellow up here at the top, you said that'll, when the process is done, that'll get pretty light again, right? It's
So yeah, it won't stay true to the color that's on it right now.
Mm-hmm.
So some of it is like the glove's wet. Of course, it's going to be like a few shades darker with that.
Mm-hmm.
But the dye itself is going to like end up, some will be rinsed out and all that, but the colors stay fixative. That's going to be a huge factor at the end.
Gotcha. All right, so we're finishing up with the orange color here. What's the specific color of that orange again?
Yep, so this is sunshine orange.
All right, perfect. And similar to the last time, anything we need to special keep in mind as you're pulling it out there?
Kind of just let it drip pretty good again, pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
You got padding and stuff down there again, so just let it get out. And should be good to go.
All right.
Then we'll move on to, I believe, Fuchsia.
Expert note for you guys here. You'll notice that we're speeding through the final 3 colors that we used to create the Tequila Sunrise colorway. Those colors were fuchsia, purple, and indigo. We use the same 15 to 20 minute interval for dip dyeing on each of these colors. Be sure to know as well that in this portion, when you're using just one pot and one burner, you'll need to pour out the color that you used, refill the pot with water, and then create that same solution that Devin showed earlier in the video. A final note for you. This is a great time for you to use your own customization when you color the glove. If you decide that you want to show a little bit more of one color and a little bit of less, go ahead and do it. It's up to you guys. This is your project.
All right, so we just finished our last color of dipping with the indigo. What's next, Devin?
Yep. So we're gonna go ahead and pull out these temporary strings, separate the web and the wrists again.
Okay.
So it's pretty easy. I mean, you just go ahead, clean snip, both places.
Yeah, so overall, he
I got
tied
this.
3 knots, so he's got one on the base of the web, one on the top.
And then it just pulls right on out.
Perfect.
Pulls right on out. There we go. Web is separated.
Nice.
And then we'll get those strings out. You can see how they start taking some of the color
Yeah.
and whatnot.
They're kind of rubber bandy almost, pretty.
Yeah, they're good little texture. Or, I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah.
There's that. And that's free. So I make sure to do the wrist mostly so we can get the spray or whatever down inside the finger holes. It just gives it a wider mouth, I guess.
All right.
So from there, I'll go ahead and fill up our spray bottle with the color fixative. This is gonna help keep the color locked in really well, and it'll prevent it from like staining your hand whenever you sweat and all that.
Okay.
So with the spray, it kind of just lets it all sit right on there, and then you seal it in with or lock it in with a heat gun,
Okay.
and it's good to go.
Cool.
But yeah.
And then with like this, I guess just showing, flipping this around a little bit, there's like a little mark right there. Is that a big deal at all since it'll be covered up? Or
No, so that kind of goes back to the leather on leather
Uh-huh.
from the beginning. Like if you have something touching, those were very tight on each other.
Gotcha.
I think that dark spot is part of the black liner kind of bleeding on.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
But mostly like I did that on the furthest point, so whenever you do it tightened, none of that will be visible.
Gotcha.
So
Cool.
just as long as you kind of let it hang out there, you'll be good in the long run.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Sweet. So yeah.
And then when you're going, you said you're going to go ahead and do the RIT dye fixative spray. Is there a certain angle that we should be holding the glove at when we do that?
No certain angle.
Okay.
No distance or anything like that either. You just want to make sure it's all really saturated.
Okay.
So I'll go through, I'll hold the web like this first, get a few sprays out. Jet stream. There we go. So you want like a good little mist, and you just, few sprays right over it real good. I'll flip it, pinch the corners because I do want it to still get on that backside.
Okay.
Spray it again down there, right up top. It can be messy, it can be whatever. Whenever you are letting it sit like this though, you're gonna want your lighter color to be on top. So whenever those drips that come in, like you can see it right now, it's kind of staining the towel as it drips. Mm-hmm. You don't want that purple going over the fuchsia because it will be very visible. If the fuchsia gets over the purple, it's just going to blend in because the purple has already overtaken that color in the past.
Do you need something to stand that up on?
We can just go right here on the
Okay, nice.
on that. And then pretty much same thing for the glove itself. Just grab it. You're going to want to hold it from the wrist up, fingertips down, because of the same situation. You want the lighter up top, and then you just go through. Little portions all the way down, make sure it's saturated good. And again, like, I'm very generous with the color stay as well. Like, there's no true gauge, just make sure you get it on there, pretty much.
Nice.
I like getting it on the pinky loops, thumb loops. Yep. So there's that one.
Perfect.
And now I'll usually go back and I'll do a second coat real quick.
Okay.
So now we'll go ahead and move to the inside. You want to make sure you're keeping it angled upwards like this, fingertips down, wrist up.
Okay.
You want to go ahead and take on this, was it moisture wicking padding?
Yeah. Yep.
Go ahead and soak
Thermoform
that up.
padding.
That's
I think
what
that's
it
what.
is.
Yeah, that's what Wilson calls it.
Good stuff. Go ahead and get it soaked up pretty good. And then you can go ahead and get down in the fingers.
An expert note for you guys on this section. Be sure to spray the hand stall with the RIT dye Fixative. What it's going to do is that it's going to keep the colors locked in so that they won't bleed onto your hand while using the glove later on.
And then it's good for the heat gun. And the heat gun is what really activates it and gets it locked in. So I just got one of these Wagner heat guns. I usually will roll with the lowest setting of the two. It only goes low and high.
Okay.
But that's just to make sure you're not sitting there cooking up your leather real good. You don't want it to get like overly hot to the point where like you're burning the leather or melting your embroidery.
Okay.
You just want to get it warm enough to get that activated and whatnot, which a little under 200, you're probably fine.
Okay.
So again, I'll start with my hand in and whatnot. I'll just start at the top and I go over the entire thing. I work from the top down to the bottom. I'll also do like the shell first versus the palm, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'll bump it up on the outside. The inside is the main focus, I guess, for whenever you're looking like the leather like being cooked and whatnot. It's a little bit thinner in there for the liner, so out here it can take that little bit extra heat.
And then how long typically are you running over it with the heat gun?
I don't have a set time,
Okay.
but you just want to make sure you're never resting in one spot. You always want to keep your heat gun moving, or else that's whenever you start getting like a focus point of like a burning part.
Okay.
So as long as you're like doing these little circles, keep going on to like a new little section, you should be pretty good. You'll get a feel for it as you go along. Getting back to this point of the wrist, it does get hot on your hand around here. So I just set it down, make sure it's stable.
Okay.
Get that. Again, be careful around here as you get near the embroidery. So from here, we'll go ahead and do the inside. I'll fold that tag down. And then with this mesh as well, and also if you have fur, you're gonna wanna be really careful because I mean, it'll all melt.
Okay.
But with that, this is also spongy and whatnot in there, so it's gonna soak up and hold a little bit more of that dye. Okay. So you do wanna make sure you get that taken care of with the fixative, and especially during the rinsing stage. Once it's in there, you can get the web. Sometimes I'll put this on like a little kebab stick or something. That way I'm not...
just to like line it through there or something. There you go. That's
so you're not burning your hand and all that.
Similar on here, that's a good reminder. If you're looking up really close, you can see some of the, from that string we ran through there. So always make sure that you're going on plate that's exposed where lace is going to be once you tie it back up.
Yeah.
All right, so we just finished up with the heat gun. What are we doing next?
Yep. So now we're gonna go ahead and take it over to our bucket and rinse it out. With this, I guess our main thing, we're just wanting to go ahead and get everything to run clear after we run it through the water and stuff. You don't want any of the drops coming out to have color anymore. Okay. It'll just run completely clear. Your glove will stay. It's like permanent color and whatnot.
Gotcha. So basically anything that the fixative didn't lock in, the fixative and the heat gun didn't lock in, is going to come out in this stage.
100%. That is exactly what's happening.
Perfect. Okay, and so once we are done with the rinsing portion, what's left after that?
Yep. So it'll be good to dry overnight and then lace it up tomorrow or the next day.
Perfect. When you leave it to dry overnight, do you usually put a fan on it or something like that?
Yeah, so I like setting it in a little box and I let a fan go on it in the front. It just kind of helps speed up the process and whatnot. Nice. And keep it even. It gets in the finger stalls too. So I like to let it sit open, airflow in this way. Okay. So it gets it nice and thorough.
Okay. What's up, everybody? We are back on day 2 of our dip dyeing process. So what did we do last night, Devin?
So last night we went ahead and let them dry out in front of a fan, so they'd be good for the morning.
Yeah. What was the important note when you're working with the fan? What do you want to orient the glove like?
So you want to have the wrist facing the fan so all that airflow can get down in there in the finger stalls. That way it just gives it a more thorough drying process and quicker drying time.
And if you get to the morning and it's still a little damp, it's probably okay to keep going with, or to start doing the lacing process. Is that right?
You should be good. It shouldn't be dyeing all your laces and all that. Stay pretty clean.
Nice. All right. Yeah. So what do we got here with our lace? What's kind of important for folks to know?
So right now we got Wilson. So we have 3.5 16ths as well as 3/16 lace. Okay. It just fits really well in that glove. And I just got normal tools. We got needles, pliers, cutters, scissors, little ruler, protractor.
Nice. And we got two laces of the 3.5 inch.
Yep.
Over 16.
So those will go on the web and up top on the fingers, and then the 3/16 will go on the wrist, thumb, pinky, heel, and palm.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll let you get going on the lacing. Pretty good finished products we got right here. Any final notes as far as the dip dye process goes? Does it work for all gloves? What's something to remember there?
So it does vary from glove to glove depending on like leather and all that. So far noticing, I mean, honestly, the A2000s have done pretty decent doing it and everything. So, I mean, it's kind of been the go-to as of lately. But
nice. Yeah. So yeah, it's big. I mean, big thing to know is it's going to take 2 days.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do it, like, not something that you're going to be able to complete in 1 day. So it's going to take the dyeing on day 1. And if you're working with one pot and at a time, it's probably going to take a little bit longer too, isn't it?
It will take quite a bit longer. Another part of that though, like say we did 5 colors on these. If you do 2 color, 3 color, something, I mean, the time's cut in half from that.
Yeah.
Just due to less pots, less burners, all that stuff. So
yeah, this one that we did, is probably one of the more intense, a little more intensive. Is that what you'd say as far as like detail that you go in?
I don't think I've done anything more than a 5 color so far. I mean, I feel like it'd be hard to fit anything more on the glove.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, the last color we mentioned, the indigo, you were saying, it just barely shows up on there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so.
Well, perfect. Well, everybody, definitely make sure that you follow Devin, DC Gloves on Instagram. You're also on TikTok too, is that right? Is it also DC Gloves on there?
Same thing.
Anywhere else that they should follow you?
I think that's it, honestly.
Nice, very cool. And as always, Just Gloves here for you, but we're hoping to do many more collaborations in the future too. So thanks, Devin.
Yeah, appreciate it.